Welcome to Passive with Property. I'm your host, Dragan Dimovsky. So today's episode, we have a very special guest, Alex Steffan, who is a town planner based in Brisbane, Queensland. Alex is an expert in residential development projects such as subdivisions, dual occupancy townhouses, and much more. With over 15 years of experience, Alex is the founder of Steffan Town Planning, one of the most reputable town planning consultancies in Queensland. Alex is not only passionate about achieving good planning outcomes for his client, but he is also a pioneer within the industry. He also provides education and training to the town planning community via the Urban and Regional Planning Education Centre. In this episode, Alex will be sharing his insights on how to achieve profitable outcomes in residential development projects, the challenges facing the property development industry in Australia today, and what the future of residential development may look like. So stay tuned to learn from this innovative and forward-thinking town planner.
Welcome to the Passive with Property podcast, hosted by Dragan Dimovsky. With over 2 decades of property investing, Dragan is a qualified property investment advisor and buyer's agent. We're committed to the education of both first-time and seasoned investors in property investment and wealth creation. The Passive with Property podcast is brought to you by the Buyers Agency Australia.
Okay, Alex, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Our pleasure. So Alex, town planner. So up in Brisbane, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a town planner?
Yeah, town planning is kind of one of those like weird professions of the world that no one really knows exist and no one really knows what we do. They think we plan the towns. But in actual fact, everything that you do has been impacted by a town planner at some point. So for example, the fact that I'm sitting in a room right now in our office where I got an easy car park and there's facilities and shops, there's a bus stop out the front. Like all of that is because a town planner at some point in time went, you know what? If we're going to let them build a commercial building there, we need to zone it appropriately. We need to make sure there's facilities, sewer, water. So it's kind of a very interesting field. And I love when people like you get me on for these things because people get to know more about what we do and how it impacts them. So thank you. But how I actually got into planning was just probably how everyone gets into their careers is my school teachers. I love geography. My geography teacher said you should become a town planner. He was like, if you love geography, you love architecture and shapes, and you should become a town planner or an architect, which I'm glad I didn't go into. But then I also loved earth sciences, so I really liked geology and ecology and stuff like that. So I asked my earth sciences teacher, like, what do you think I should do? And she said you should become an environmental engineer. And engineering scared the hell out of me. So university, looking at the planning degrees, looking at any environmental degrees, I was very much like a greenie back in the day. So, well, I still am. And there was a degree at the time from Griffith University called environmental planning, which was literally the combination of environmental engineering or environmental sciences and urban planning. So kind of ended up with 2 degrees, which was awesome. And then how I got into development assessment, which is what I do now, like kind of a niche in town planning. I just got a job. I was trying to get a job at uni and I ended up in a job doing what I do now in development assessment at a surveying company and just loved it. I was like, we're kind of like lawyers without as much liability. Like, it's great. There's no judge, slapping my wrist. Well, I mean, depending on what I'm doing. So I really enjoyed it. And then, here I am. I'm coming up to 20 years of doing this in 2 years' time. So
fantastic.
It's scary. Scary thought.
Okay. So that's all. I mean, it sounds all good. So can you tell me, Alex? So what are some of the most common mistakes that you see small time developers make when it comes to residential development projects?
So the majority of what we do is lodging development applications to council. So I do 30 to 40 inquiries a day, helping people vet sites, identify key issues, make sure that they can do what they want to do. And the number one thing that I see people do is have stuff unconditional
Okay.
before they contact me, because that is like, because what will happen is they'll go, hey, here's this site, what do you think? And I go, oh, look, this looks good. Stormwater is a nightmare. You're not going to be able to do this. That is kind of a deal breaker unless we, achieve something completely abnormal, and it'll be very hard and very long.
Yep.
So we recommend passing on this site. And then they'll come back and go, we're actually unconditional. We settle on Thursday. And we're like,
I've heard many of those horror stories, and
So-
I've had actual clients who have purchased properties and then approach someone like yourself, and then they find out, well, you know what, you can't actually do anything with that property, even though it's 1,500 square meters on a corner block.
Yeah, well,
Terrible.
yeah, well, what we need, we need people like yourself who are more skilled and knowledgeable in town planning to actually make that call first, before even signing a contract. It's like, you know what, let's just run this past the town planner. It doesn't have to be me. We only work in Queensland anyway. But yeah, just running it past someone really quickly just to get that initial bit of, fact checking.
Yep.
You've done your own
And
research.
that doesn't necessarily. So, listeners out there, that doesn't mean just because the next door neighbour has developed townhouses that yours can as well. So before you actually go off and put a deposit on a particular property, contact Alex if you're in Queensland.
Yeah, 100%.
Or another town. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
we see that kind of situation all the time. It's like, I actually had an inquiry yesterday of someone saying, I want to build 4-story apartments on my site. And behind them is 4-story apartments. So it's like, okay, well, maybe. But they've got a pre-1911 house sitting right in the middle of their site, and it's adjoining a heritage building. And it's actually in an LMR2 zone, which only allows you to build 2 stories in height. So like all of those combinations will basically mean he might be able to do 2-story townhouses if he can get past the original pre-1911 house. So, and then to do that, we're going to have to get a contour detail and identification survey to see the exact amount of distance between the house and the boundary. So and there's no way he's going to be able to build 4 stories. So it's like, just because they did it next door does not mean you might not be able to do anything depending on those town planning rules.
Okay. So, Alex, what advice would you give to someone who is interested in getting into property development, but doesn't have for instance, the capital to start with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the best thing that you can do, so there's so many different jobs in a property development. And when I say jobs, I mean like partners and like joint venture partners. So we do a lot of work for a lot of JV. Some of the people involved in that, you would not expect at all. So you've got some people just with heaps of money and no knowledge as to what to do at all. Then you've got people who absolutely crush it in the knowledge space and they just read everything. They do every course. They have mentors and they understand the process really well. So you can come into it with no money. If you find the right site, you've got a good feasibility and you can find someone with money, you can easily get into property development with no money down, I think one of the guys up here says. So yeah, upskill yourself would be my highest recommendation. We have a lot of online courses. I think you've done some yourself where we basically train people to find good development sites. We don't teach you how to do feasibilities. That's your job as a property developer to figure that out. We're the town planners. So upskill yourself, find sites, do fake feasibilities, pretend that you've done the job and have a look at other approvals and developments and see how they played out. And once you become extremely knowledgeable, start joining networking meetings, property groups, and I'm sure eventually you'll find someone with money to go, that looks like a great deal. I'll happily put in $1 million. I just want a 20% return in a year's time or 2 years' time. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, a lot of these people who do have a lot of cash sitting there do not have the time for the reason they're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then you have on the other side people who have the knowledge, have the skill, and they can get together and become that perfect combination of doing something. Even if it's a small development to begin with, at least they're getting on track. And And again, once you start getting into the education, like your courses, you sort of gear into other sort of ways that will get you into a network of these people.
Yeah, I mean, even Facebook groups, like there's some amazing Facebook
Yep.
groups getting around that, like you see
Yep.
stuff happening, and we have clients who I see that don't know each other, and they don't know that they both like use us as their town planner, but I see them on Facebook groups like connecting with each other, like someone will be like, I've got this great development site, it's located in Tagum or wherever it is, and I'm like, I know what site you're talking about. I looked at it for you yesterday. And then I see someone who I know is looking for development sites kind of go,
Yeah.
I'm interested, let's talk. And they're like, oh, let's DM each other and let's catch up. And you're like, this is great. I've been seeing our clients connect over social media in a Facebook group. Like crazy world we live in.
Do you have your own Facebook group?
Yes, we do. So I have the urban, and so not at Steffan Town Planning, but I have a business called URPEC, which is the Urban and Regional Planning Education Centre. So that's where we provide all the specialist online training for property developers and planners. So that has a Facebook group, but yeah, it's very closed. You need to request access, and you basically have to be one of our students to get in there.
Understood. Okay. So how do you determine whether there's a potential development site that is stable for subdivision or a multi-unit development?
Yeah. So step number one is look at the town planning scheme. There's kind of no point in doing anything unless you look at the planning scheme and it ticks the boxes to be able to be developed. So we run into we run into situations all the time where people have done like a full feasibility. They've like almost got their bank convinced to give them money. They've got contracts, everything, and they send it to us. We're like, you can't do 2 lots. Like you can't do 3 lots here. You can do 2 lots though. And they go, oh, well, everything needs 3 lots. Like, and it's like, well, you shouldn't have done all of that yet. You should have looked at the planning scheme first. Within 2 minutes, you could have figured out that this is only a 2-lot subdivision site. So the first thing I'd recommend doing is picking an area, because trying to understand the planning scheme of the entire country is going to be near impossible to do. And you'd have to do it all day, every day to kind of be able to do it efficiently, which is what we do. So I'd pick an area, get really familiar with the zoning provisions and the limitations. So in Brisbane, just using Brisbane as an example, if you concentrated on Brisbane, if you're trying to do splitters or 1 to 2 lot subdivisions, you need a low density zone that's 800 square meters or 600 square meters within 200 meters of a centre zone that's 2,000 square meters. Or if you're in an LMR zone, you need 260 square meters with 7.5 meter frontages. So if you can get really familiar with a site's, like an area's planning scheme, and you have a specific kind of development you want to do, whether it's subdivision or units, then you'll be able to like quickly make assessments on sites. Once you then can identify sites that are suitable for those kinds of developments, that's when you can either upskill yourself using courses or online content like this, or you can start reaching out to town planners to then go, okay, well, this is a good site. Let's run it past a planner, and then we'll start picking it apart. And if you're taking that feedback on board, you'll then start knowing what the issues could be, like lawful points of discharge, assets in the verges like bus stops, flooding, biodiversity. And once you've done that like a couple of times, you'll pretty much become a weapon, and you'll just go like, as soon as something comes on market or a real estate agent sends you something off market, within like 2 minutes, you can just go, tick, 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 cross, not interested. And then you can just move on.
Yep.
And when you do that, you can start looking at 100 sites a week versus 10 sites a week.
That's right. You arm yourself with the knowledge. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to what we spoke about before, feasibility. So for our listeners who are new out there and they say, okay, well, great, I want to start practicing. Is there a site you recommend, or where they can actually do the feasibility?
I know that there is a lot of software that you can kind of subscribe to that does feasibilities. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but I haven't used any of those. Generally, things change so quickly, and like costs change so quickly, and it really depends where you are too. Like a subdivision in Moreton Bay is more expensive than it is in Logan, which it's more, cheaper than it is in Brisbane. And that's not real stats. It's an example. So, I don't know how those programs would really work, other than giving like a general vague idea. So I found just networking, finding a mentor, finding someone who's done it before, running through the numbers, find like a planner, like find people and just take them out for a beer or take them out for coffee and pick their brains. Because, I can very quickly tell you exactly the costs of an entire subdivision from a planning side of things. But once you go into construction, it's like I can give you a very good idea because we do development management, but I couldn't give you the amount of detail that a civil contractor might be able to give you. So it's like, well, find a civil contractor, do what take them out for a beer, offer them a coffee, see if you can pick their brain, pay them for an hour of their time and just sit down and go through some costs. And once you've done that like 2 or 3 times, you're going to have a spreadsheet that's like every single cost of that kind of development right down to the last dollar. So that's what I recommend doing. That'll give you like the hard truth on what those numbers should be, versus, like an estimate that someone gave that's been on the internet for 8 years. And,
That's right.
I've got one of those. Like we have a town planning handbook that has the cost estimate of a subdivision. And it's like 4 years old. Like it's probably double the price by now. But
Yep. And look, I guess, I put my 5 cents into this as well. Once you start doing courses out there that solely specialize in developments and subdivisions, they will actually provide you all this information.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. Cool.
Are you stressed out not knowing where to find distressed, off-market, high cash flow properties in high growth areas? What about the best strategy to build a wealth-generating portfolio? Look no further. Dragan Domovsky can help. With 20 years of experience as a property investor, Dragan is a qualified property investment advisor and expert buyer's agent, so he knows how to find the best deals and negotiate for his clients. And right now, he's offering a free 45-minute strategy session to get you started, normally worth $500. Text the code PWP along with your name and email address to 0405 105 074 now to take advantage of this offer. Don't wait. Take control of your financial future today. That number again, 0405 105 074. You're listening to the Passive with Property podcast, hosted by Dragan Domovsky. To ensure you don't miss out on valuable investing tips and information, subscribe today.
Okay, so Alex, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and regulations in the property development industry?
Yeah, most of the time I just walk around banging my head against brick walls is the easiest way to do it. If you walk past a brick wall, just give it a knock and see if you learn something new. It's pretty painful. I mean, it's probably one of the, like, doing what I do is not technically difficult. Like anyone, anyone could write a town planning report with enough practice. But the thing that I believe that you're paying for is someone who is constantly up to date with not only the planning scheme changes or the regulation amendments, they're up to date with like the nuances of each individual council and each area of council and each planner that works there. So, we know that this planner in council is an idiot and you're going to have to really hand feed everything to them and you're going to have to go above their head all the time. Otherwise, you'll be there for years. And then you have other ones where like this planner at council is really onto it. They're really smart and efficient and we can just give it to them. We know exactly how to let them do their thing. Don't annoy them. They'll get it done. So, and then on the other side of it, so that's the one thing. And then the other side is just doing it all day, every day gives us access to all of that information all day, every single day. So unfortunately, just by doing the job every day, any update that happens, any weird amendment or proposed amendment, I'll get an email about it from someone, or I'll be doing an inquiry and be like, what the hell is this? This wasn't there yesterday.
Yeah.
And then that's how we keep up to date.
Awesome. Thank you. So I guess the listeners want to know the juicy part of a success story of a client, someone who's made significant profit in a development or a subdivision.
Yeah. We don't.
Don't have to give us names.
No,
It's
no.
okay.
Yeah, this person, they're rich. No. Yeah, I think, to be honest, but we don't really get involved with the feasibility of these projects. So
Yeah.
we check in and we make sure that if something's changing in our development because of some issue, that it's still stacking up positively for our clients. We don't want to be getting approvals and spending money when we know that they're going to lose money.
Yep.
But so I don't exactly know how much money people make, but there's certainly hundreds of outcomes that I can recall where our client's gone. I'll use one example that we're about to get approval for. So we've got this one where it's a massive site. Probably 2/3 of it is in a koala habitat and high ecological significance, high ecological strategic significance, natural assets, local law, significant vegetation. It's basically covered in every single vegetation overlay that you could think of. About 2/3 of the site. So our client was like, look, if we can get, I think it's 4 lots. No, it was 6. If we can get 6 lots out of this, it works for us. Do you think we can do it? And I was looking at it and going, 6 lots should be achievable, but all of these other factors could really kind of burn us.
Knock it back.
Yeah, because there's edging effects and things in ecology that can kind of mean you can't build right up to the boundary. You're going to have a setback and bushfires and things like that. So what I did was we were like, let's get an ecologist on board. We got New Ground on board, which is an ecology, environmental planning business up here. Really great. Highly recommend them. And they basically did a study. They got an arborist on board. They did tree surveys, and they kind of figured out that as much as the whole site's in these overlays, we could probably creep into it a bit because these trees are pretty nasty and they're not, they're not that much. They're not super valuable to the ecosystem. There's no birds there. There's no wildlife. There's no value. So we put that together, had a pre-lodgement meeting with council, and went, we don't want 6. We actually want 12. And knowing that we're going to be happy with 6. So we went for 12. Council came back and went, if your ecology report, sorry, we didn't give them the ecology report on purpose. So we had the pre-lodgement meeting without the ecology report. We went, this is what we want to do. This is why we want to do it. We think that these trees are useless. Here's some photos of them. Council came back and said, if your report if you get an ecology report that backs that up, then we'll support it. But 12 lots is probably too many because we need extra property boundaries and environmental areas. It kind of just didn't work that well. So they said, look, we'll let you have 10. No, we'll let you have 8. So I was like, this has been set up perfectly. So we then booked in a second pre-lodgement meeting with 12 lots again and said, well, look, we've got this ecology report now, as you requested, and look, it's actually favourable with exactly what we want to do. So happy days? And they said, well, yes, but we'll still only let you do 8. And there's no real reason at that point why they decided to have 8. So we lodged it with 10 lots and went through council DA, through the assessment process, through public notification, and we're about to get approval for 10 lots. So for what our client was happy to do 6 lots, we're actually now getting them 10 lots. With
almost double.
Yeah, with not really any more significant cost, especially from our side. Our fees were kind of the same. The added cost would just be for the extra infrastructure to get 10, to build 10 lots. So yeah, I'm guessing, I don't know what the feasibility is, but I know that it worked well on 6 lots. So I'm guessing, their profit's going to double, I would think, using the...
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so...
Good on them.
Good town planning. If I wasn't, if we didn't take that approach, we would have just gone 6 lots. Yeah, sweet, that's easy. Let's just get it approved, get on with it. But instead, we thought, let's see what we can do.
Awesome, fantastic. So, do you see any sort of big challenges facing the property development industry in Australia?
I think just the rising cost of just development. It's we do development management of subdivisions, just small subdivisions. So we're going to take it from inception right through to plant ceiling. So we handle all the operational works, all the costs of everything, and just seeing how much those costs have increased. It's insane. Like I don't understand how. Like I feel as if everyone's just like having a go. Like, everyone's expecting higher costs, so let's just give them higher costs, and everyone's just making bank. Like I don't think people are making less money; they're making double the amount of money. These contractors. So, so that to me seems like the biggest problem. Like a subdivision that used to cost 100 to 120 grand, we're now telling people budget 200 for a simple one. And
so we're talking about. Can you give an example? Is that like 1,000 square meter block that's a 1, 2, or 2 subdivision battle axe or corner block?
Yeah. So if it was split down the middle, or like on a corner, and you've both got street frontages, I would budget 200 grand now.
Okay. Yep.
For everything. So not including tax and agents. Like this is just like the cost.
So give the listeners an idea. When you say everything, what does that mean?
Good question. So that's like town planning costs. So town planning costs, council fees, surveyor fees, engineers, construction costs, project management, like inspection fees, lawyer fees for doing the titling, plan sealing, so getting your final certificates and everything from council. So that's kind of the cost, the hard cost of having a piece of land and turning it into two titles. After that, you then have to sell them, and you have to pay taxes and stamp duty and all of that. So that's when the 200 grand will creep up. But I say kind of 200 grand for like a 1 into 2 lot subdivision. That's pretty simple, just 2 lots side by side. When you have a battle axe lot, so which is an allotment that's accessed from behind a street frontage that's got there via an access handle or an easement, then you've got the cost of running all of those services, pretty much another 20, 30 meters. So, including driveways, fences, pipes, telecommunications, power, all of it. So if you're doing a battle axe, the costs go up immediately, and I'd add on 50 grand
on top
to that.
Okay. So what would be the difference? Let's just say it's a 1 into 3. How much of a difference?
Yeah.
Again, if it's a battle axe or a corner block, let's use a corner block, for example.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you get a bit of benefit with doing multiple. So you've got the power and numbers, you can get a lower rate. But if you just like 1 into 3, I think you'd still be quite similar. Like I think you're still going to have to run the sewer that almost exactly the same distance to get 2 lots as you would for 3 lots. So I'd probably still budget another, not 200, but probably another 100. I'd say like for every lot after, it might half. Well, I just did a feasibility for a friend for 4 lots, and it ended up coming to about 380,000.
Okay.
So it's kind of like maybe the first one's 200, and then each one's 800. 100 after that.
Okay.
And that would probably go to a certain point, probably 5 lots, and then 5 lots it would probably drop down again potentially. So like each lot after the first would go from 100 to 80. I have heard, and these are like proper, heard on the grapevine, that those really, really large subdivisions, like 400 lots, they spend about 60 grand per lot to get them to titling. So if you kind of get the 400 times 60, that's how much the whole development has cost them.
Yep. Okay, fantastic. Alex, can you give any advice for anyone and any of the listeners out there who is thinking, okay, I really want to get my hands dirty now. What do I do? Where can I go?
Yeah, good question. I think the best thing that you can do is join like a property group, whether it's Facebook or in person. There's heaps of meetups, like in-person meetups for property development. Make sure you're not going to one that's just trying to sell you something. We sponsor one up here in Brisbane at the Broncos Leagues Club. They meet the last Tuesday of every month. And that's great. There's just a big group of people. I would say like half of them are seasoned developers who have done multiple like projects, and they're there because they want to meet people and talk about it. So if you want to get involved and get dirty, just go to one, find someone who's doing something already that you like, and just say like, hey, look, I'm really interested in this. Can I like shadow you for a day, or can I help you with something? I don't want to be paid. I just want to get involved, get my hands dirty and learn about the experience. And that to me is the fastest way that you'll become a property developer. And if you're not the kind of person who goes to those things and you don't want to go out and into networking, my like harsh reality is you're probably not going to be a very good property developer, because as a property developer, you need to be able to talk to people confidently and network and solve problems and be uncomfortable and make it work. So if you're a quiet person, maybe you need to be a money partner. It's probably my like harsh feedback. And we see it, you know, some people call us and they're freaking out about every single thing. And I'm like, this person should not be a property developer. Like they need to go back to what they're doing as a job. And if they're interested in property, maybe invest. Call someone like yourself and say, I've got X amount of money. I want some capital growth or some passive income. Make it work for me. I do see that often, obviously with what I do, but I normally say, hey, if you're not ready yet, purchase it. And, you know, Alex, I've dealt with you a few times. Purchase that property that can be developed and hang on to it. You know, if it's got a house on it, say I favor this sort of strategy. Purchase the house that's positive or neutrally geared, or maybe even slightly negative. Hold on to it. Purchase a few more. Get your education. Keep them for a little while, because by holding something for 5-10 years minimizes your risk, because obviously the property increases in value. So there's obviously more profits to be made once done. Yeah.
You know, once you're educated, then you can go back to and go, okay, well, I'm ready now.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great strategy.
Yeah.
And it eases people into it and minimizes the risk.
Exactly.
Nice one.
You know, I favor that one. Anyway, so Alex, where can people contact you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, just I reckon the best place to contact me directly is on my LinkedIn. So just search my name, Alexander Steffan. Steffan spelled Steffan. And so like the hairdresser, but with 2 Fs. And add me on there. And the reason I say that is you can email me or you can contact us via the phone. But I find when we do things like this, like it's better to have like that personal connection. And I find LinkedIn, you know, you can like see people's faces, see what they do for a living. Like you can kind of get a good grasp on what people do and what the kind of person they are straight away. So add me on there, flick me a message. And if you've got a property inquiry, I'll flick you my email address and you can just contact me straight there.
Awesome. And I'll add a link into the description as well. So no problem.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex, for coming on. I'm sure we'll get you on again in the near future.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Passive with Property podcast, hosted by Dragan Domovsky. For valuable information on property investment and wealth creation for both first-time and seasoned investors, be sure to subscribe today. The Passive with Property podcast is brought to you by the Buyers Agency Australia. Are you stressed out not knowing where to find distressed, off-market, high cash flow properties in high-growth areas? What about the best strategy to build a wealth-generating portfolio? Look no further. Dragan Domovsky can help. With 20 years of experience as a property investor, Dragan is a qualified property investment advisor and expert buyer's agent, so he knows how to find the best deals and negotiate for his clients. And right now, he's offering a free 45-minute strategy session to get you started, normally worth $500. Text the code PWP along with your name and email address to 0405 105 074 now to take advantage of this offer. Don't wait. Take control of your financial future today. That number again, 0405 105 074.